Hello and welcome back to the Go for Two podcast and welcome into our week 7 review. I'm Liam, your host, and as always, I'm joined by a man who's on a mission. He's coming back in our picks competition. Is of course Patrick, Mr. Muggs NFL. How are you? How are you doing on this fine Monday after your team got a victory, my team got a victory, and you beat me in the picks for this week?
Yeah, the triple header. Just what I wanted this week. All three of us getting. But happy about the Eagles. I think the Cleveland Browns spread that we picked that was my favourite of this week. After I let you pick before the weather, but I'm not sure how much the weather affected it. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
week.
as always, the bad teams just beat us. Dolphins killed me. Jets killed you, which is hilarious. And then ironically, Cardinals, who actually covered, that they killed me because I had the other side. So it's just, it's always a bad team and it feels like it does this to us. But you did win. Well, you're winning the week 9-7. We're recording this Monday before Monday Night Football doubleheader. We both picked the Lions -5.5. For anyone who didn't listen to the last show, you picked the Texans +3.5, and I picked the Seahawks -3.5. So you're 9-7 up with those two games to play, and I currently have a 3-point lead. So it could be down to 2 points as of the end of today. But let's hope we get at least one right tonight, because that'd be a 10 points for the week, a double digits, what we want. We used to get that all the time. We need to get back to our 10 points a week.
This season's unpredictable, though, isn't it? It's absolutely unpredictable so far. You look at the playoff picture and it's like, oh my, what are they doing there? You know, the Chiefs are still not in it, by the way. Have you had a look today?
I haven't had a look today. I'm trying to avoid it. Yeah, just enjoy the victory, but it doesn't surprise me. Probably the 8 seed, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's some funny teams in it. It feels like you're either terrible or you're good enough to make the playoffs this year. There's not much, not much in between, is there? But yeah, we'll break it all down now and talk about the games that have happened so far in week 7. We'll go through our usual sections. So we'll start with game of the week or games of the week, and then we'll go to our shocks of the week. Then we'll go over to Patrick for hot seat, which I think I might know where he's going with that one. And then we'll finish with 10 minutes around the NFL to talk about any other big topics or games that we haven't been able to touch on. And I'm going to start this week, we've agreed, because I've picked a game that we probably think should be the one we lead off with. And that is the crazy game that happened last night that kept me up till 1 a.m. and unfortunately didn't have the outcome that I wanted as an AFC West rival. But we've gone with the Giants and the Broncos. The Broncos winning 33-32. I can't remember. Did they score 33 points in? No, it wasn't 30. Was it 33 points?
It was indeed 33 points in the fourth quarter.
33 points in the fourth quarter. 19-0 lead at one point. 26-6 or something at one point as well. And also, officially, a team that has led by this margin in the fourth quarter is now 1,600. It was 1,602 to 0. It's now 1,602 to 1 because the Giants are the first team in NFL history to give up that amount of points and lose the game, obviously, in the fourth quarter. They missed 2 extra points. They lose the game by 1 point. This game was way better than everyone thought, mate. I don't really know if this is a better win for the Broncos because you see your quarterback play bad all game and then fourth quarter turn it on and you just want to win and you're leading the AFC West, or if it's a worse loss for the Giants because your kicker, who again is only playing because our boy Graham Gano got injured when we were there, and then the fact that Jackson Dart throws one of the worst picks of the day. Like, I don't know, is this a better win for one team or a worse loss for the other team?
Come the end of the season, I think the Broncos are going to be relevant and the Giants probably not. So it's probably a bigger victory in terms of getting a playoff seeding or even a playoff place in the end with a wild card. This has shocked you, by the way, but I also was still awake watching this game.
Wow, that does shock me.
I know. Well, then the Broncos started to come back and I was like, well, I'll watch it a bit longer. And it's not like me. I wasn't falling asleep, so I watched it and I just couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. I actually felt bad. Like, obviously the Giants are an NFC East rival, but I like Jackson Dart, I like Scatterbill, and I just thought, pull this game out, lads, and then kind of move on. But I just couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. Denver are not this good. I'm telling you now. They shouldn't have beat the Eagles. The game in London was just atrocious, and then somehow they pulled it back for this when they were abysmal again, scoreless for 3 quarters. You know, good football teams don't do that, do they? But Bo Nix, he knows how to have a good fourth quarter. I will give him that because he did against Philadelphia and he's did it again this week.
Yeah, first NFL quarterback ever, isn't it, with 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns in one quarter. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the defense is legit. We all know that. Now
Yeah.
they gave up 32 points here, but three of those are just a penalty, B, a deflected pass that went for a touchdown. There's another one where it was a broken coverage because someone slipped and it was a 40-yard pass to Daniel Bellinger, I think it was.
Yeah, Bellinger.
So yeah, again, good for the Giants offense to score that many points, but I think that was a bit more of an aberration. But the run game, the offense has just not been very good for them. And I'm just struggling to see them winning a round in the playoffs as we sit here today with how the offense looks. So they definitely need to improve. But I just want to go over to the other side because I do have to have a Giants moan as someone who was watching the Chargers down by like 20 points and the Broncos down by 20 points, thinking, oh, what a beautiful day to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And then, of course, they missed 2 extra points from a kicker that is, I don't know if you know this, you probably do because you love college football, but he was the Rutgers backup kicker, not even the Rutgers first choice kicker in college. And they picked him up rather than Younghoe Koo, for example. They let Jackson Dart throw it on second down on that drive that he threw a pick. And then the next drive, when all signs are pointing to this is going to be an awful finish, you need to hold the ball for the rest of the game. They just ran it up the gut 3 times to then just punt it. And then on after they get the PI and then Jackson Dart scores that sneak, they had no timeouts, the Broncos. All the Giants need to do is not score on the first play and just score on the second, third, or fourth play, and they win the game. But they didn't even think about that, and they just go in. And then Dable's screaming at the refs to review it, and it was a touchdown. Just get back up, snap the ball, go for another sneak, and you waste another 15, 20 seconds off the clock. The Broncos can't even throw the ball. They haven't got time to throw the ball down the field. It just felt like an absolute Brian Dable disaster class to me, with a little bit of Jackson Dart because he shouldn't have made that throw. But I just don't get how they coached that game. And then the defensive coordinator who might get fired, is the rumors this week. He only rushes 3 on the last play of the game when they've got pressure all day. They have a 40-yard pass, and then Brian Burns is running off the field screaming, we only effing rushed 3 as he's going into the locker room. And he was the one who had to drop back in coverage. So for me, I'm with you that it's a better win, but there's so many things I just thought the Giants just completely threw this game away. And I couldn't believe it, to be honest, watching it happen like one by one.
Well, the time issue is really the hallmark of a bad head coach, right? It's the time management is the biggest unspoken, mostly statistic in the NFL. We never there is no metrics that we measure by decisions by time, which is just the most important thing going. But yeah, I mean, when they just piled in the first attempt for the touchdown, you're thinking that's just stupid. But on Shane Cohen dropping 8, how do you drop 8 and everybody feels open? If you're going to drop 8, okay, you'd think then that everyone is blanketed and you need to throw underneath or whatever and get some yards after. But it was like, no, he was open, good throw.
And they got out of bounds as well on the first play.
No, it's just, these are the things that get some people fired, aren't they, at the end of the day? It's a shame that Dart threw that pick, but felt like a rookie under incredible amount of pressure situation, and that does happen. So I feel bad for that. But the Shane Cohen rushing 3 thing at the end, it's just not right.
No, it's unforgivable. When you've got a good pass rush as well. Yeah. To go a bad 4-man rush, it's like, are we going to get any pressure? Let's just go 8 in coverage or blitz. That's normally what people do. When you've got that pass rush that everyone's talked about, they've got to Bo Nix all day. It just feels like a silly choice to do that. But the pick was the pick. His feet got caught up and it wasn't great. But I then think that pick led to Daboll just running it up the gut 3 times on the next play and then punting it straight back to them. I think if you're going to do that, the play before, you've got to have at least a rollout. Okay, maybe you don't want him to drop back, but you've got to roll him out and see, okay, right, can I scramble for 6 yards or is someone open? If not, I'll just take the sack. It's the same result. We burn clock anyway. It just felt like running out the gut and all the Broncos players are all crowded around the middle of the line of scrimmage. I was like, oh my God, they are literally just going to do the thing that I hate. Well, my team does it. I don't know if you feel the same. When you know it and it's just like 1 yard run, 1 yard run, 1 yard run, punt. It's an awful He is an NFL fan, and as soon as they did it, I was like, oh my God, Brian Dable's just going to do the thing that I hate. But yeah, I do feel sorry for the kicker, by the way. I think he's an Irish kicker, like I said.
He is, from Gaelic football,
Yeah, missed 2. I actually was on Twitter at the time, and I think Ben Baldwin, who's got a good 4th down bot, was saying, you know what, there's a lot of evidence to say you should actually go for 2 here. because they've got no timeouts. Because the minute you go for 2, if you score 2, they can't win the game because they're not going to score a touchdown probably with 30 seconds to go. Now, if you don't convert, everyone goes mental. But it's just funny with this kicker because he'd already missed an extra point. You think, should I just risk it and just go for 2? And then in the end, you end up doing the easy thing that doesn't get you there. So I do feel sorry for the kicker, but it just feels like a bad loss for them. But yeah, it is a good win for the Broncos, and obviously the fans will be feeling great today, but some question marks going forward. How do you think they solve that from the Broncos? Is it just bad luck, or is it they need different players? Is it just who Bo Nix is? Like, what do you think they can do on offense? Because the defense has been legit all year.
Yeah, defense is great. This run game really is not helping Knicks out at all, is it, this season? I mean, Dobbins, he was okay. He was up to 80-odd yards, but nothing really felt kind of dynamic. I'm not sure what it is about Bo Nix this season, because you can't take away the fourth quarter activity that he's had in the last month, but there's just something off with the play. I like it when they kind of call design runs for him, or he kind of scrambles out the pocket. He doesn't seem to be doing that earlier in the game too much, and I do think that helps them open up a little bit, because he was really useful last season, if you remember, with his legs, wasn't he? So it was just maybe mixing in a kind of a little bit more on that, keeping defenses honest. I'm not sure, but they got an interesting game, by the way. Dallas in Denver next Sunday. That'll be a test.
Yeah, I'd score some points, so probably win that game, but we'll see. I do think, just final thing on this, I think Sean Payton is actually having a really good season as a head coach. He's nailing it with the time stuff you just mentioned that we just said Dayball wasn't. And what you said is true. The players open all the time. Now, Bo's not hitting them all, and maybe they should run him a bit more early in the game, like you mentioned. But it feels like every time I look at them, there's someone wide open. And I read a stat today that out of all the quarterbacks who played more than 2 quarters in this season, he's last in the NFL in accuracy, over 10 yards. And it feels like that when you watch them. But every time I look, I'm like, wow, there's a player open on that third down. There's a player open on that second down. So I think Sean Payton's having a good season as a coach, and that gives them a chance. I'll just be interested to see if, their owners are the richest in the league, aren't they? I'd be interested to see if they go aggressive on the deadline and adds another player on offense to try and help Bo Nix out, maybe a running back potentially, but we shall see. Let's move off my heartbreak then. I wanted to see the G-Men win this game and go on to another. It was very NFC East laden pod today. What's your game of the week?
Yeah, I've got game of the week, but I don't think there was that many great games yesterday. I didn't really want to pick the Eagles, so mine is more of a performance of the week, whereas it was still quite an entertaining game, but maybe that's because I don't like Washington. They got a whooping. Yeah, Dallas 44, Washington 22, and I thought the Cowboys were again exceptional, right, on offense. Dak looks amazing, to be honest. When CD is back in there, the plays down the field and intermediately just feel so much easier for them, and it's just move the ball so well. And by the way, Javonte Williams has just, for Denver, he looked like kind of medium to kind of low end, running back one. For Dallas, I mean, he's second in rushing in the league, and I just think he looks an absolute weapon in the red zone as well. So it's just like the kind of wrinkles that they've added there. Yeah, I just think they look, if they could tighten up on defense, I think there'd be a really interesting wild card team to play a division winner on. I'm just not sure whether they're just going to be an entertaining, difficult out a lot of the weeks, or they're actually going to kind of improve that on defense. But it was a fun game and a fun watch, and Washington are going the way of, you might have expected it in mid-season. They don't look good, and Daniels was not healthy, and obviously went off injured last night with a hamstring, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Monday Night Football as well in Kansas City this week.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Let's make sure we rest him up, give him that time. He doesn't need to play this week. He hasn't looked healthy all season, by the way.
He doesn't look good when he's playing. I don't think he doesn't look anywhere near last year's level.
No, the team has definitely struggled. But going back to the Cowboys, Javonte Williams looks so good. I think I forgot his first name now, but Ferguson,
Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, he's on track to beat the tight end reception record by 38 receptions all time, which is absolutely mad. Because Brock Bowers, I think, only got it last year because he got the rookie, but I think he also got the the biggest, the most ever. But yeah, Jake Ferguson's on track to beat that by 38 receptions or something, which is basically probably four Travis Kelce games, 3 Travis Kelce games, which is mental. He's on track to beat it by that. And George Pickens as well. Like, I know the trades worked out in terms of they got DK in Pittsburgh, but I think he would have done a good job for them as their wide receiver too. I think the fact that Dak and him get on so well in terms of like down the field, and they've clearly got a rapport of him getting open, or even if he's not open, Dak will throw it to him. I think those are 2 good signs. Again, the Schottenheimer at least. Maybe Jerry is still Jerry, but Schottenheimer is using these 2 weapons that both the other teams didn't want, and he's getting a lot out of them, which I think is pretty impressive. And Jadeveon Clowney rolled the years back. I don't know how many sacks he finished with, but he led Sunday in pressure rate across the whole NFL. And every time I saw him red zone, he was getting a sack, it felt like. So yeah, it was a good win for them, and a good example again. They make some really clever decisions around the margins. Jerry just seems to F up every large decision, as we all know. I am still waiting for a pass rusher trade on deadline, by the way, which would just really round the story out of like, okay, now you've traded a 2nd round pick for Trey Hendrickson or whoever the player is, and you're like, could you have not just kept Micah Parsons? But I feel like that's bound to happen. But yeah, you're right. They do look good. I'm not sure their defense is just. I don't think their defense is going to get average enough to win them a playoff game at the moment, but they might make a move.
Like I said, I think you're looking. If the playoffs were starting today and Dallas were your 7th seed coming into your house, it's going to be a tricky out because they look so good on offense, right? So it's like, yeah, if one side of the ball is so bad, but almost balanced off fully by having maybe the most potent offense in the NFL, you certainly wouldn't feel super comfortable. Whether it plays at that level all year, we'll kind of see, won't we? But yeah, feel
They've
like
got a hard schedule as well.
Sorry,
they've got a hard schedule as well, so we're going to see them against a lot of good teams as well, which is exciting because it might make those games fun because the Cowboys can keep up with all the good teams. But I think we'll know how close they are to winning a playoff game in 3 or 4 weeks when they've played some top teams again.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see how they get on with Denver's defense coming up this week. Quite interested in that game. But yeah, Washington, I think it's going to end up being looking like a lost season.
What makes you think that? Is it just the injuries mounting up to Jaden? Because he was quite healthy last year, but there was concern in draft circles when he was coming out. He moved a lot in college, but he kind of always moved to run. And then obviously when you run, you get hit more. And he is extremely slender. Is that your concern, or have you got bigger concerns than just Jaden? Like, if Jaden was still playing really well, is there other areas of the team where you're like, oh, I'm not sure they're good enough?
I think if he was playing at the same level as last year, you could probably mask that, and the records would be switched around, and maybe they'd be 4-3. But I don't think the defense is good at all either. Obviously, they are the oldest roster in the league as well, and they don't appear really to when they've got any great young talent. So it just feels to me like, I mean, they did beat the Raiders, but the Raiders putting up 24 on you now looks absolutely awful, by the way, because they're absolutely disgraced that we maybe talk about for 5 seconds later. But just, yeah, something about Washington just on defense is not looking good. Dan Quinn, by the way, looked very tense last night, I thought. He feels like a man who's feeling a bit of pressure. These expectations, right, of going to the NFC Championship game.
I think he's coaching for his job, potentially. But maybe he is, like, in terms of the end of the year. And I think the issue is there. You've got Cliff coached good offense last year and probably gets on with Jaden. So there's a bit of in-house competition, isn't there, for that one? But yeah, I think you're right about the defense. The corners not looked good this year. The offensive line as well been banged up a little bit. And last year they were banged up, but it didn't seem to matter. And this year it does seem to matter a little bit. So yeah, I think it's just they're not in a good place. And they've got Mariota coming in now. I don't know who they've got after KC. I don't know if they've got the bye or not, but it feels like, famous last words here, clip me up, when they beat the Chiefs. But if Mariota plays and they don't win that game, they're going to be a bit of a disadvantage in terms of getting in the wild card positions.
Oh, you're looking at Kansas City, at home to Seattle, and at home to Detroit in the next 3 weeks. So that incredibly difficult.
Yeah, you got to win one probably to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah, you need to win one. Yeah, you got to win one.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sure. Yeah, how do you feel as a NFC East fan here? Because one team's offense looks beautiful in this game, and you don't like them, but the other team's maybe your biggest rival in the division this season because the Cowboys have traded their best player. So, are you happy for this, or were you neutral because you don't like either?
No, I feel like with the way that the Eagles look overall, I'm happy that there's dysfunction in the rest of it, because I think if Dallas had Micah Parsons and maybe another piece on defense, I'd be thinking that's a challenge until the end of the season. So I do think that the Eagles are going to win the division. Their own shortcomings, I think, would make it difficult rather than another team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and Dallas have got some fun games coming up as well in prime time. Anyone, UK, we're going to get to see a lot of Dak throwing the ball to CD and George Pickens, which will be exciting. Cool. On to shock of the week then. Let's do my one last. So why don't you go first? What was your shock of the week?
Yeah, mine, to be honest with you, is again, it's a tricky week, but I'm following up a Monday Night Football victory over Buffalo, which looks an absolutely incredible victory. San Francisco last night beating the Falcons 20-10, and Atlanta really never fell into the game, even though it was 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, and it was, he's close on the scoreline. I just think a banged up 49ers controlled the game with CMC, who was absolutely ridiculous. And Bijan, by the way, they wrapped up Bijan all game. And that, for me, is like the key to the Falcons, is when that's not humming, it's then looked really difficult to do anything else, because see Drake London was really quiet as well yesterday. So, yeah, so my shock of the week is that, probably just disappointment coming off the Bills win, and maybe the realisation probably is who the Falcons are overall, sat at 3-3.
Yeah, I might be looking and reaching for this, but it doesn't say a lot of good things about the Bills either, can I just say? If you look at who they've lost to and who they've beaten, that is a bit of a red flag. Again, if I was an NFC fan, it'd be easier to talk about because it comes across as biased, but I've heard a lot of shows saying it. They really haven't got impressive wins and pretty bad losses. But in terms of the Falcons, you're right. Are they just going to be this up and down week to week team? It kind of feels like it. And I don't know if you watched the highlights or the whole game. I watched the whole game without the adverts, and Penix didn't look good either. Felt like he was always under pressure, which isn't always his fault, but sometimes it is because he was holding on to the ball. But then it felt like anytime he did have pressure, he was just complete panicked and he was a bit of a mess. And I think there was other things as well. They didn't challenge a first down that they should have challenged. Raheem Morris had 10 men on the field on a crucial third down, and obviously he took accountability for that today. So it feels like Penix is a bit all over the place, and Raheem Morris, the head coach, isn't doing the best job as a head coach he could do. And maybe that's why they're so up and down. If they're up for it and the game starts well, maybe they get going, and then maybe if things aren't going well, they're just not good enough teams. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of them. We always have these teams, I feel like every year, where we're kind of, the Steelers were a little bit like this a couple of years ago for us, but they're this one for me, where I just don't know week to week. When we look at the spreads, I have no idea if I'm going to pick the Falcons or not, because it just feels like you don't know what team you're getting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the way that their schedule looks as well looks okay. They are in the South, of course. They're going to be there or thereabouts, most likely, in the last 3 weeks of the season, probably for a wild card slot, unless the Bucs completely collapse and fall off. So it's like, I feel like you need to learn more about the team before we even think about maybe like a wild card team or anything like that. So yeah, I was disappointed in them last night.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, the winners of this game, again, Kyle Shanahan. I know maybe Shane Steichen is maybe coach of the year after I had him to be first coach fired, by the way. But Kyle Shanahan's got to be up there, because it doesn't seem to matter what injury. They're really doing a good job on all the phases to get things going on offense or defense, whatever that week needs. This was more of a defensive game from Salah. Mac Jones' stats weren't great, and I've got a Mac Jones point later I want to go on to. But CMC probably getting overused. But as Kyle Shanahan said last night, his quote was, I didn't want him out there on third down, on that crucial third down, but I needed him on third down. I looked at the play, saw the route that the running back has to run, and just thought, he's just come off. He's too tired. He should stay off, but I have to put him back on. I think that is a red flag going forwards because of his injury history. But in terms of this game, he's now number one fantasy football running back for this season. He had 24 rushes. He did for 129 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 7 catches for 72 yards with a long of 17. It felt like this is again, just elite CMC season. And maybe they're going to burn him out and cause an injury because that's just who he is. And I think they are overusing him. But when he plays games like this, it is easy to understand why Kyle Shanahan just calls his number, because I thought he was incredible in this game, and no one else really was good for the 49ers offense.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that situation, isn't it, where you're always trying. I mean, where the 49ers stand as well at 5-2, it's like the division is
Crazy.
there. Yeah, the division is there. It's difficult, so it's kind of like you have to lean on that with the injuries that you get. Kittle was very quiet in his kind of first game back from IR, but sure that'll kind of ramp up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think he was 0-0, wasn't he? So
yeah,
blocking, and Juszczyk was -2. So yeah, it was kind of just CMC really. Brian Robinson averaged like 3.8 yards a carry. So it was all Kyle Shanahan dialing up for CMC and kind of nobody else. My Mac Jones point, this didn't look great in this game. No TDs, 1 interception, but 65% completion percentage. But he has played well in other games. And I listened to a pod earlier today that they were talking about what QB would you take over Bo Nix? And obviously they're not going to go Mahomes and Josh Allen. That's just too obvious. They went Spencer Rattler, which both people on the podcast said they would take over Bo Nix. They then went to Michael Penix, which they both said they wouldn't. They would take Bo Nix over Michael Penix. And then they went on to Drake May. That was an obvious one. Drake May won. And then last but not least was Mac Jones. And both people said, after watching Sunday Night Football, they take Mac Jones over Bo Nix. And I wanted your opinion after watching this game and watching Mac Jones. Should anyone be taking Mac Jones over many quarterbacks in the league? Are people losing their mind in America over this?
I think we've got enough data on Mac Jones throughout his Patriots career as well to say probably not. However, I'm happy with him in a jam, starting 4 or 5 games as my backup. I think he's a really good backup. I'm not about to say he's... I mean, who knows? The NFL can be really stupid at times. If he plays well all season, I'm sure he's only on a 1-year deal. So who knows what would happen next year if the Jets don't get a Mendoza in the draft. Mac Jones getting 25 million. But I think I'd probably take Bo Nix.
Yeah, I did think they were getting a bit excitable. The same podcast also said that Daniel Jones to the Colts reminds them of Tom Brady to the Bucks. So
it's silly now.
So we'll leave that one there. We'll leave that one there. But yeah, good win for the 49ers. Yeah, their record's crazy with all those injuries. But yeah, Falcons are a team that's going to confuse us, I think. One of us is going to lose betting on the Falcons every other week. That's what we're going to be. On to my shock of the week then. This was hyped up by us, but by many people, as the game that would save London this season. On paper, it was a very good game. I think the Jags starting the season so well probably actually meant it was a better game now than it was 6 weeks ago. But unfortunately, it did not end up being a very good London game, and fans were sat there in the peeing down rain, and they got to watch the Rams beat the Jags 35-7. We both picked the Rams, so we were happy with this. I think, I probably like the Rams a little bit more than you, but we both think they're NFC contenders. Stafford's playing really well. Didn't play this game, but we both love Puka Nacua. But this game was more, just can't believe the fans, another 180 quid a ticket, and this is what they got. But B, I think this isn't quite what the Jags really are, but this is a little bit more of why I think teams like the Chiefs, and I can't remember who they beat the week before, but these games they've been pulling out kind of out of the hat is been confusing everyone, because they went something like punt, 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 turn everyone down, punt, punt in this game, and they were down 28-0. They had 2 1-yard touchdown passes to Devontae Adams. They had 3 holdings in the end zone that ended up being plays from the 1-yard line for the Rams. They had 4 false starts again. Feels like this is worse than it should have been. I know it's an extreme example, but the Jags are still a mess at times. It feels like the Rams look good, but I think the biggest story is the Jags, plus the fact London just can't get a break and can't get a good game.
Yeah, I mean, I have something to discuss after just saying. I think I saw that Stafford's 5 TDs is a high for an international game. So that's 5 TDs on 182 yards leads you to believe that those penalties took away from his own yard. I hope he's not got bonuses on in his contract. But I think we've got now this was his best game in the NFL yesterday. So it might feel like strange timing. But when you just said that the Jags are a mess, like sometimes obviously they're winning record at the moment, but they still kind of have games and moments like this. But then when you trade up a lot of draft capital for Travis Hunter, he does not look like, I don't care whether it's only week 7, he does not look like somebody that you should have sold the house for at his position. He's not really playing a lot on defense. It was his best receiving game yesterday. However, yeah, exactly. So it's like you take that away, and we only look at 3 quarters. It's like, wow, it's a big it's a big trade up that the league's not talking about yet. Like, I feel like we're not talking about it yet, but I feel like we should be allowed to because of the draft capital that was on display, right?
Yeah, I heard Bill Simmons mention it for the first time on that pod. Yeah, and you're right. You mentioned the defense point. They just traded. They just done a cornerback trade because they're not happy with their cornerback room. Their cornerback room's awful, and it's all played awful apart from one player. And yeah, he can't even get a look in there. And when he does, people are targeting him. Okay, cool. We're playing more on offense, and then he doesn't get targeted much until the fourth quarter again. Yeah, it's a weird one. They've kind of made a rod for their own back, right? Because they've traded him as if they traded for him and worded it in the media. They traded for someone who can play two positions. And really, looks like they're just going to trade for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then maybe not even the best wide receiver in that class. And I think the other issue is that he clearly wanted to play both sides of the ball. It hasn't quite worked out yet, and that's what they've paid for. A lot of people in the draft community thought he was a better corner, and rather than keep him there, they put him a receiver, and then he's not getting the ball thrown to him on half his routes. Yeah, I think it is a confusing one. I've heard people start to say the Browns did a good trade there as well, so it's starting to get in there. But you're right. I think people aren't realizing maybe a year's time when they haven't got that first round pick, what the hell does this actually look like? If they finish 8-9 or 9-8, don't quite make the playoffs, and then they need a corner, it's like, or they need a pass rusher, or they need a whatever. Okay, we've got no first round pick now. I think in the summer everyone will be talking about this because of that trade being so aggressive.
No, completely agree. And it's just because, like you were saying, then he's obviously, people in the draft were saying that it was going to be a better corner. Well, you don't trade up all that draft capital for a corner. Historically, you don't, unless you knew you were getting the best ever. And obviously, you don't know that in the drafts, do you? So it was just like, it's a strange one, really. I think it's in the future, I think we're going to be talking about it a lot more than we are now.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Let's end on, like I said, NFL London games in general, and then Rams, and then we'll move on. We've already spoken about it quite a bit. How does this further along the narrative of it's not a good product, and next year's games, whatever they pick, the number of games and the teams are going to be the most important ever? Or it doesn't even matter. They'll just pick whoever because someone will pay 180 quid for a ticket. Like, does this game change any of that for you or for anyone you've seen online, or is it all just much the same?
The game was unfortunate because it was only the second between teams with winning records in London ever, which is, I mean, that's ridiculous in itself, isn't it? But just, it was unfortunate the way it ended up. There were two good teams on paper. Obviously, the Jag did beat the Chiefs, whether that was fortuitous or what. They still did get that victory the other weeks. Yeah, unfortunately, combining the weather, I don't think many people had a great time for the price. Overall, it's been a bad year, and next year you can, if you're going to send in over the Jets again, or you know what I mean. No disrespect to these teams, but teams with losing records, it has to be mixed in. I think with a superstar player has to come over, a Lamar, a Mahomes, a Philadelphia Eagles or whatever. I think that needs to be kind of mixed in next year.
Yeah, we don't want to see the Saints versus Titans, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then Miami versus the Jets, which I've seen in London as well. You know what I mean? But just
we could be seeing Tua versus Mariota in Madrid, by the way. So that's not even, with how bad the Dolphins are, that's not even worked out because they tried to give them a better game because it's the first one, and then that's not worked out either. So they'll all sell out, but still puts them in a bit of an awkward position. I can't remember the Germany game, but it could be the worst set of European games.
The Germany game, I want to say it's the Colts, but I can't remember who they're playing.
Let's have a look. Let's have a live look. I thought the Colts were there before, but they're going back again, are they?
It's the Colts and the Falcons.
There we go. That might be a two winning records when it is.
Yeah, week 10 that. So yeah, that's there. Yeah, the Colts, they're looking great, aren't they? So that's a pretty good game overall, isn't it?
Yeah, that might be two winning records, which would be good. And then final point on the Rams, they've been a little bit up and down this season, but Stafford's played great. Bonte obviously got a bit of a connection with him in this game. Defensive line still looks elite. Where are you at on the Rams? They a very good team, or you still need to see more? Because it feels like when they play well, they play well. When they don't, they play awful. There's not much been in between with them. Like, where are you sat with the Rams as an NFC rival for you guys?
Yeah, I'm sat currently they're playing the Saints this week. most likely to go 6-2. It's a great record to have after 8 weeks. I think they're going to be a really, really dangerous team. If you sat here and told me that you'd looked into the future and they got to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. Overall, they've got to be a bit more consistent on both sides of the ball, but I think they're a really dangerous team, to be honest with you. I think now I had San Francisco to win the division at the start of the year, but obviously the injuries are going to take the toll eventually on that. So it's just, good team. Going to be a difficult out in the playoffs. For me, it's a definite Super Bowl team, and I feel like I can't say that about San Francisco at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree. Stafford's playing so well as well, which really helps. Top 5 in MVP odds as well at the moment. And again, these funny storylines that crop up, you got someone like Jaden Daniels, who's whatever he is, 21, and no injuries during the season. You had Matt Stafford in a pod for his back that everyone was panicking about, and the man looks the healthiest I've ever seen him. Like, it just feels like one of those funny NFL stories where, he's coming from nowhere in terms of didn't play a single preseason. Now he's having, I think it's actually statistically his best season ever. And he leads the league in passing touchdowns and passing yards. And their offense is at top 6 in EPA and DVOA. So it feels like Stafford's having a good year, but we'll see if they can. I think they'll make a move, by the way. There's a lot of talk on like Jordan Rodriguez and people like that they'll be aggressive again with a trade, maybe for a corner, to try and win a game. So try and win a few playoff games and win a Super Bowl, but we'll see. Let's go over to the hot seat then, because I've actually got one to follow you up on this week. But you are going to go first because this is your section. I think I know where you're going, but you've surprised me before. Who's on your hot seat for this week?
You might get the general direction, but I don't think you'd get the name because we're going owner. We're going Stephen Ross from the Miami Dolphins. Read a great article actually last night as Red Zone was on from the Miami Herald that, obviously we talk about McDaniel, we talk about Chris Greer, the GM, who were, oh my God, yesterday, that was an abomination from him yesterday. He's got the 2 worst games this season by QBR, and it just, awful. That is as bad as you can look yesterday as an NFL starting quarterback. That is experience. All falls down to Stephen Ross, kind of the owner, and his unwillingness to kind of blow anything up, whether that's his own age, which is mid-80s, but it's just the longer it goes on, the longer the drought is going to go on. And obviously the Dolphins have the drought for the long 25 years now since they won a playoff game in the NFL. So it's just now the incompetence is really setting in this season. Honestly, to get blown out by this Cleveland Browns team great defense still, great defensive line. Offense is kind of not there, is it? They've got some nice young pieces, but they've got Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. I don't think he's going to be Dan Marino, is he? So it's just like, just overall, all incompetent. And it has come out, though, through the Miami kind of beat writers. It's not coming yet. The changes, it's not happening this week unless something happens behind closed doors. It's not happening.
No, you're right. Yeah, Ian Rappaport said that Mike McDaniel's still got his job and keeping his job for now, which is interesting. I'll just check my phone to see if anything's dropped, but it hasn't. And that seems where it's going. And they got the Falcons at home next on Sunday. Is it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. But that's not an easy game, but they should be thinking that's a game to win, especially if you're a head coach who wants to keep his job. Yeah. But after that, they go Ravens on the road. Ravens haven't looked great, but Lamar will probably play. Ravens probably have to win nearly every game now. So they're going to try and win that game, obviously, and be a very good team. Then they go from Lamar to Josh Allen. Not ideal. Then they go to the Commanders on the road, who aren't, they're not the greatest team in the world. Oh, sorry, that's the Spain game. Yeah, but if Jaden's healthy for that, that's a hard game. And then the schedule does get easier. But by then, we're talking 30th of November.
Yeah, exactly.
Against the Saints. It just feels like if you don't win any of those games I mentioned, the head coach won't make it to that game. So, you're right. I think you're right to call him out. The owner, he's not going to sell the team, but the owner, the GM, the head coach, they've all had a disastrous few years. And the funny storyline on the side of this is they've now got to put up with Tyreek Hill being off the field and on social media. And yesterday, just 4 tweets in a row about Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, or Travis Kelce, and no tweets until Tua threw the pick, and he did a grimace tweet that he then deleted. Grimace emoji tweet, which is hilarious. So, Tua, by the way, I feel like I might end up being right about that because he was leading the league in like EPA. Obviously, he was a passing yards leader until he had a concussion. People kind of started to feel like maybe not us, but other people started to feel like he was a very good quarterback and the system worked. And I think as time's gone on, I think it just proves that, yeah, the system worked short term until people worked it out. He was good to play it. The system was built around him because I think Mike McDaniel is a smart play caller, but they can't change anything. It is what it is. And once teams work that out, the first read taken away, the motions taken away, condensed formations, you can't run the ball. It just feels like Tua's a nightmare. And those picks were just awful. I don't know if you've seen the clip from CBS where they're showing the highlight of the pick he threw from the end zone. And as the guy's telling the story, he then goes, "Oh, as I'm talking, he's thrown another pick." And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, it's basically from quarterback up in every single important position is just a disaster. I think they might be the worst team. I think it's actually them or the Jets are the worst team. I'm not sure it is the Titans or the Saints. I'm trying to think who else has got a bad record, but I feel like it's those two that are the worst teams in the NFL. But I might be wrong, but that's what it feels like to me.
Yes, absolutely. And just something's got to change. And I'm really interested to see Tua's short-term now career arc. McDaniel, I believe, has said today that he may evaluate the quarterback position. I know Quinn Ewers. I actually didn't see a lot of Quinn Ewers when he came on, but
his first throw should have been an interception. His first throw. So as a former Quinn Ewers fan, didn't look good, I'll say. But let's give him. I could have Ewers and Spencer Rattler starting in a game in a few weeks. And I've got a hoodie of both of them from you that I might need to rock one half each, maybe, for that one.
Stitch it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe dual. Yeah, half and half scarf or something. But yeah, not a good position for the Dolphins. I'll be quick with my hot seat. Mine's a player. Now, this player is not going to get dropped. This player is going to get another season next year. I love this player in college, but we have to have a little discussion around Cam Ward, the number one overall pick. Justin Fields took 9 sacks in London. Probably I think it's the most in an international game ever. Justin Fields has been sacked 22 times this year. I know he hasn't played the full amount of games. Jalen Hurts had a lot of criticism this year for getting sacked too much and holding on to the ball. They've got 22 sacks between them. Cam Ward has 30 sacks and the third highest time to throw in terms of longest. So it's not just the offensive line. He's holding the ball an absolute age. This time through 7 games, Will Levis was sacked only 15 times. He had a better completion percentage. He had a better touchdown ratio. He was higher on EPA per play. He had more first downs, arguably with a worse team, but he did also have more interceptions. And I think it's disingenuous to say Cam Ward's highlights have not looked better than Will Levis. They have. But the lowlights, in terms of sacks, maybe Will Levis threw more picks. He had 8 picks versus 5. But he'd only been sacked 14 or 15 times. I can't remember the exact number. Cam Ward's getting sacked non-stop. And he's dropped the ball 5 times this season just from his hand. Yesterday led to a pick. He's only got 9-inch hands. It was a running joke in the draft process that no one talks about his tiny hands, but Tua, they did talk about his hands. I loved him in college. I still think he's going to be I still hope he's going to be a good player. The early signs, I think, are worse than people have been talking about. And maybe Callahan, rightfully so, has gotten a lot of the blame. But I maybe think Cam Ward's kind of gone off a bit lucky because I thought he was an absolute awful disaster yesterday in that loss.
Yeah, what I'd say, what you've just said then, right, about he's got away with it. Number one, he was the least talked about number 1 overall draft pick that was a quarterback I can remember. This season, he played the Broncos, Rams, Colts, Texans, Cardinals, Raiders, Patriots. These are not games that people are going to be talking about. So sure. I feel like he has gotten away with, he's not a robbery or anything type, but he has kind of gotten away from any scrutiny what a number 1 draft pick would normally have for how bad he has looked at times. And if you look at the remaining schedule, there ain't that much on there that's going to be, nothing in prime time and nothing that's going to be like a big pivotal game. So he may get away with having a quiet, ugly first season, hoping then to bounce back before we talk about it looks pretty bad. It's not looking good.
No, yeah, he has those highlight throws definitely, which like Levis didn't have. But the silly mistakes, they're different because they're not pick sixes. Will
Yeah,
Levis is like in like Cobra position, giving up as someone scoring a touchdown. But it's awful sacks on like, oh my god, we're on 3rd and 4. We've driven the ball to the 30-yard line. We've got at least a field goal. Oh no, we're now sacked and it's 4th and 14. It's like it's a different type of like he's losing them games, but he is genuinely, unfortunately, losing them games. Now, I think he should get 2 seasons. I think that's a general rule of thumb. But everyone was slating Caleb Williams last
yeah.
season for taking too many sacks. He had taken 8 less than Cam Ward through this number of games. So just think it's fair to call that one out. But big win for the Patriots. Obviously, Vrabel going back to Tennessee. Vrabel, pretty classy yesterday, saying a lot, about people that work at the Titans. He said a lot about Brian Callahan, and he got to stick it to them and win 31-13. And Drake May is your 4th favorite for NFL MVP through 7 weeks, which I think is a good little storyline as we kind of talk about the rest of the league. Cool. Let's go around the rest of the NFL then in 10 minutes or less. I don't know if we have started to accidentally touch on every game because there's been a lot of buys and we might end up touching on some of these. But the Colts and Packers get big wins. Colts win 38-24 against the Chargers. The Packers win 27-23 against the Cardinals. Colts obviously a lot more convincing, but these are two teams that would fancy themselves as, winning playoff games or game at least this season, and they get the job done in quite convincing fashion from the Colts. Not as much for the Packers, but both teams needed a win, and they get it done. To be honest, I think the scores are probably for both of them not quite. They're probably closer than maybe the game indicated. But yeah, 2 big wins for 2 good teams there, I think.
Yeah, I think what I said last week about the Colts sneaking by the Cardinals has to apply this week for the Packers also. Obviously, they look a difficult out with Jacoby Brissett, tougher than they did with Kyler, which is a bit of an indictment on him. But Micah Parsons, 3 sacks. He looked electric yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah.
One thing I will say on the Colts game, by the way, you can, even if the Chargers had no injuries, full healthy roster, you don't win the Super Bowl in those uniforms. They're some of the worst I've ever seen. Get rid of them straight off the bat. When they
I'm a Leeds fan, so all yellow is a positive thing for Leeds fans. So I liked it, but most people are on your side.
Yeah,
I thought it looked awful and compared them to Minions.
Yeah, for me, it's just not a. You don't march into the AFC Championship game in Arrowhead in all yellow and then come out with a victory. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with that. But yeah, Packers sneak one out. Cardinals keep things close, by the way. I think it says a lot if I was the owner about my coaching staff, how they keep these games close. Maybe they haven't got the quarterback, maybe they haven't got the talent. But if I was an owner, I'd be thinking there's still some good signs from this coaching staff for me. They keep us in all these games when the quarterback doesn't throw picks. So I think that's probably a positive sign for them. The Chicago Bears, 4 wins in a row. When was the last time we said that? They beat the Saints 26-14. Penn Johnson's absolute nut job after the game again, like in the dressing room. His post-game speeches are getting better. DeAndre Swift again playing well. Caleb Williams didn't look great in the first half, but second half definitely improved. But yeah, Bears in an NFC that maybe a little bit disappointing compared to, I think AFC and NFC are definitely more disappointing than we thought. But the Bears have keeping themselves well in the race, mate, and doesn't mean they're going to be a playoff team, but they're putting themselves definitely in the right positions and making strides forward. And the defense under Allen looks really good.
What I'd say is the biggest compliment to Chicago is actually going and winning a game with the expectations of you should win this game. Previous years, including last year with Caleb, they wouldn't have done that. But they won this game convincingly. They look like the better football team, which they should have done. But, recent history of the Chicago Bears doesn't look like that. So for me, yeah, I think they look okay. They've got a nice record. We'll see how they get on now. They're at Baltimore and at Cincinnati in the next 2 weeks. So we'll kind of see how they get on there. Be great if they could pick up a win on the road, one of those 2.
Baltimore as well. That's a must-win game for Baltimore. So
it's must-win. They're all must-win now.
Yeah, if the Bears win that game, that's an impressive win as well because the other team's desperate. So yeah, we'll see what happens after that game. Let's leave our teams to last. We talk about them a lot. Probably shouldn't leave them to last with this game, but Panthers beat the Jets 13-6. Now Bryce Young gets hurt, which is one of the reasons why this was 13-6. But unfortunately, I don't want to see a man lose his job, but things are stacking up for Aaron Glenn. This was another bad performance from Justin Fields. The defense played better, but is that just because Bryce Young got hurt? But overall, again, more time management issues, looking lost on the sideline. The fans obviously weren't happy. They were booing a lot in this game. They'd made the, sorry, it's a home game, actually. So, yeah, the fans were booing. There was clips on Red Zone of them, leaving early, even though they're only down 7 points. But, yeah, things just go from bad to worse for the Jets. This is not the team I thought we were going to see after week 1.
No improvement from the awful London performance. And I think any NFL game where you end up with Tyrod Taylor versus Andy Dalton in 2025 is not a good one, is it? It looks like Dalton's, by the way, he's starting next week against Buffalo, I saw earlier, which is a shame for Bryce Young.
Yeah, that is a shame because he started to turn the corner a little bit. Did Bryce Young, and the running game looks good. Weird though, again, for anyone following the story of the running back position here, Chuba Hubbard's back this game, and then Rico Dow barely played after getting 200 yards in multiple games. So it does feel like the Panthers, not quite sure what they're doing there, but Dave Canales is doing a good job for sure as head coach. And then our two teams, one game is more competitive than the other. Eagles win against the Vikings 28-22. Jalen Hurts has I got a weird stat to talk about this game, but Jalen Hurts everyone keeps telling me it was a really good game. 13% passing success rate is bad, but apparently every time that something went well, it was because of Jalen Hurts, and maybe when it didn't go well, it was because of someone else. But they get the win. And Carson Wentz was absolutely awful. And now people are talking about, are they just shadow benching JJ McCarthy? But yeah, I think this Vikings season could be a bit Commanders-y and going kind of down the drain quick. But the Eagles get a win that they need, kind of get off the schneid of those 2 losses. And then Jalen Hurts looks the best he's looked all season. So you must be feeling better, even if it's not perfection yet.
Yeah, much better with Giants at home to come on Sunday before the bye. It was a good time. Obviously, it hurts perfect passer rating for the first time in his career. But more talking about the Vikings, what you just said about that soft benching, very interesting, like what is actually happening. And I feel like this is an athletic story coming in about 4 weeks' time when maybe they've lost a couple more games. I don't know. Wentz, between the 20s, was absolutely fine yesterday. He was over 300 yards. Eagles have a bad secondary, but I will say he looked okay between the 20s. In the red zone, it was a complete disaster. But it really was. It really was a complete disaster. But let's see who starts. It's Thursday night football. This week is Chargers Vikings. So, and I've got a lot of Vikings chatter on my timeline this morning, which
There's
is
a lot of Vikings European fans, isn't there? A lot.
There is, yeah. So it's just let's see who starts this Thursday. Because if it ain't JJ, there's something awry somewhere about JJ McCarthy.
I would not put the percent anywhere near 0 that by the trade deadline, Kirk Cousins does not play for his old team again. Knows the system. O'Connell clearly likes him. They are a very good team outside of the quarterback position right now. I know there's injuries, but they should be making the playoffs. They may make the playoffs. They may not at the moment. I think they're very up and down on offense, obviously. It just wouldn't surprise me. I don't know why I'd put it. I wouldn't maybe put it at 60-40 trade, but I wouldn't put it at 0. It's like probably 30% of me that thinks that he could come back to Minnesota, which would not be good for JJ McCarthy. My stat that I don't get is even after this week, by the way, the Eagles on obvious passing downs, which is 2nd, 3rd, or 4th down, 6 yards or more, they're the worst in the league in EPA per play, DVOA, and success rate. And this game, everyone was just like, oh, their passing game is so good at times. And I'm like, how can they still be the worst in the league? Like, I don't know. We're just going to, I think Shil Kapadia said, basically every play was either for 0 yards or an explosive play. So all the explosive plays were really good statistically. But then every other play, because like I said, it was only 13% passing success rate in this game. So it was one of the worst in the league. But every play was massive or nothing. Like, I don't know, is that just... like, what do you put that down to? Is it everyone else but Hurts? Because obviously he played quite well. I know the run game just looks completely gone. But what do you put that down to as a fan when you're watching it? Like, it's either 30 yards to AJ Brown or it's 0 at this point.
And the 0 is nobody is open on the 0 yards. He is not missing people. He is actually having a pretty good season overall, Hurts, in kind of his decision making and not trying to do too much outside the box. I think he knows his own kind of limitations there. But it's just like, very strange. Run game looks weird. Let's see. Developed. It looked weird last season and they won the Super Bowl. But what I will say is there's not enough on defense at the moment. That cupboard is not full enough on defense.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do a trade. Zadarius Smith retiring as well. That's probably thrown a bit of a spanner.
Brandon Graham is heavily rumoured to come back now.
Is that good or bad for you?
No, it'd be good. I'm sure he'll be absolutely just as good as Darius Smith was. And of course, he's an Eagles legend.
Yeah, he's in the locker room as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think he's quite close with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like it should matter, but it actually does when you've got two receivers that constantly moan about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And Brandon Graham's probably going to be the team captain, right? If he comes back, he's the legend. Exactly. So that probably is more important than people give it credit to, but I'm sure they'll make a trade. And then last but certainly least, even though it made me happy, Chiefs 31, Raiders 0. This is the second worst offensive game in NFL history by the Raiders. They had 30 plays. Chiefs scored 31 points. They had I think the Chiefs had more first downs as well than the Raiders had plays. It's the worst success rate ever. They had one first down in the last 3 quarters of the game. One first down. I think it went punt, 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 turnover on downs, fumble, punt, punt. And the Chiefs kneeled out with 2 minutes, 40 seconds to go. And the Raiders didn't bother calling timeout because it was pointless. What's your quick 30 seconds on this game? Because we definitely don't need to spend longer than that.
Yeah, I don't think Pete Carroll should have come back to the NFL. I think the big thing of it. I know that you will say talent always wins over coaching, but there are lots and lots of coaches in this league that can take a middling player and plug him in to be an efficient starter in the NFL, and that is not happening for the Raiders at the moment. So woeful. They've been pathetic now for a month, and this was the worst display. And you knew it was going to happen on that first drive. So it was absolutely fine. I had red zone on my second screen, and I was just like, I've seen enough to know that this game's already over. There's no kind of fight there or whatever. Everything looks. I feel sorry for Genty because everything looks so difficult for him.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Are you a DAZN multi-view person yet or not? Because that features.
No, I'm not interested in that. If the Eagles are playing, I'm not interested in a multi-view. So
okay. Well, my point was going to be, if anyone did have this game on multi-view, which many would have at the start, maybe, or some would have, if you didn't support the Chiefs, probably including Raiders fans, if you don't support the Chiefs, no one had that on multi-view after the first quarter because the Raiders were just a disaster. Mahomes went back-to-back 80-plus yard drives, 3 touchdowns, 21-0, and that basically was game over. Maybe the Raiders, actually, going back to my point earlier, maybe they're up there with the worst team in the NFL. I think without Bowers and Myers, they probably are. That's two of their best players. That's not fair. I think when they're back, they'll be better than what they showed yesterday. Yeah, not a good season for Pete Carroll. Not a good season for Patrick Graham either. Defensive coordinator, another go at it. I think he's had 4 years of being a defensive coordinator now, and things just aren't looking good. Rashee Rice looks like a god again. God again amongst men. So we're happy with that. And I think that's it. We've touched on every game again, which is good. That is it for week 7. In terms of week 8 in the NFL, we've obviously got tonight's Monday Night Football game still to go, which we'll chat about. Anything crazy happens in our next show. But we've got the Vikings and Chargers are our Thursday night game, like you just mentioned earlier with the Vikes. That's, I think, a more entertaining game. We've got some must-win games from a Bengals-Jets is a must-win if the Bengals want to keep going for Joe Burrow. You've got the Ravens have got to win a big game. The Bills are at home. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Giants-Eagles, so you get to watch Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo try and be nut jobs against the Eagles defense. We've got an NFC South matchup in the Bucs and Saints, which is crazy every single year. And then Cowboys-Broncos in the late window, and then a couple of good primetime games as well. So again, no superstar games, but I feel like there's less bad games in week 8. And I think we get the early kickoff, don't we, as well, because of time difference.
Yeah, only one of the week, 5. Only one of the year, 5 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, so we get a bit of an earlier run as well for anyone that wants to stay up and watch some games. So we'll be back later in the week to discuss all those games, preview them, and Patrick will try and win 3 weeks in a row and make me worried about my picks for the rest of the season. I'm going to have to start going into safety mode here and just picking the same as him if he keeps beating me every single week. You can go follow us at Go42Pod on Twitter/X. You can go follow Patrick as well at MugsNFL to get any NFL related merch that you want. If you do want a Tyrod Taylor Jets hoodie, there's only one man in the UK who's going to be able to get you that, and he's on this.
That's right, mate. There really is. Yeah.
No one else is doing that. So Patrick is your man. But thanks everyone for listening. Hope everyone has a good week, and we will speak to you guys soon.
I'll speak to you soon, everyone.